Here are 5 structural tips on how to write better cold emails to get a much better response rate. We're going to go through some example subject lines, some example opener sentences. I can't really write the whole email for you because I don't know what your offer is. And if you don't know what your offer is either, check the link in the description. There's a whole video workshop on how do I build a solution first agency and figure out what the solution is first before I do my marketing. But let's assume you've already got the solution and we're ready to do the marketing. How do you email people and let people know what's up so that they actually open the email and read the message? So let's start with the subject. The subject needs to be something that makes me feel so curious that I have to click it. And the way that you do that is you have 2 parts of the subject. There's one part that's just like this really quick, easy thing that you have to do. And the other part is this really big reward. And so the more tension that you can get between those two, like the easier it is with the bigger the reward, the more likely people are going to click the subject line and open the email. So an example would be, here's a quick idea to get more leads, right? So it's a quick idea. It doesn't really require you to do anything. It's not a big time commitment. It's quick. And get more leads. That would be really big. That would be a big deal. So that would be a good subject line. So then you get into, okay, well now we're at the first line of the email. It's the introduction. And don't do that thing where you give people your name and where you work and why you're emailing them and all that. You don't have to do this personal introduction. Like everything that you would put in the introduction is probably sitting in your email signature right now. Your name, your phone number, your email address, where you work, your title, all that stuff is probably after the, thank you, here's my name part. So you don't have to start the email with that. When people are curious, they'll just zing on down to the bottom and see who you are. Instead, start the email with something where I just can't resist reading the second line. Like I want the first line to be such a zinger, I have to keep reading. Because if you start with a personal introduction, nobody cares. Like they don't even know what you're talking about yet. They don't want to get to know you yet. They want to know why you're bothering to email them. So if they don't read the first message or the first line of the message, they're never going to read the rest. So it doesn't matter what the rest of the email says. If people bounce off the first line, it's all over. So here are 3 ideas for how to have a good opening line. The first idea is to ask a question that's already on the reader's mind. So if you know the audience, maybe it's businesses that are just getting started and looking for more leads, then ask a question that you know they're already thinking about, like, want to know how to get more leads even if you're just getting started? That can be a great first line because it's a question that the person's already thinking about. Like, yeah, I'm actually wondering that right now. What's the idea? I mean, how did you know that was on my mind? Like, that's uncanny. And then people will have to read the second line and keep going from there. The second idea is the fear of missing out. Like, have the first line introduce an idea where they don't want to miss out on it. Now, I'm not talking about fear mongering, where you're saying, there's this huge problem, your business is on the brink of failure if you don't do this thing. It's like this over-the-top, stupid, fear-mongering thing is not what I'm talking about. I don't like that. As soon as somebody starts fear-mongering me, I immediately delete the message. But what I am talking about is maybe a new idea that I haven't heard about that maybe I could save some money somehow. Like a good example would be most local business owners are spending way too much money trying to compete for leads against national brands. So if I'm a local business owner and I feel like my marketing is too expensive and I'm not really doing a lot to kind of shield myself from competition against national brands where they have a gigantic marketing budget, I'm going to be like, wow, I don't want to be spending money that I don't have to. I've got to keep reading it. And if I don't keep reading it, I'm going to be missing out on savings. That's the kind of idea, like the fear of missing out opener. Because like once that line hits me and I feel like, yeah, that does apply to me. I don't want to miss out. I have to keep reading. So that's number 2. Number 3 is the someone's talking about you idea, which would be like, if I was talking to someone else about you, you would be like, well, what are they saying? Was it good? Was it bad? What's going on? I have to keep reading to find out what people have said. And an example would be like mentioning a mutual friend or some kind of common connection and saying that you were talking to the mutual friend and here's what we said. And so you might say something like, I was talking to Chantal about the pictures you took at their wedding. And so maybe what your offer is how to help photographers generate more leads and make more money doing wedding photography or something. And you're thinking, well, this particular person is doing really good work, but might not be getting the number of leads that they want. And so you can start out the email by saying, hey, I was talking to Chantal about the pictures you took at their wedding. And then the reader is going to be like, well, what did they say? Right? So they have to keep reading it. And so those are 3 really strong concepts for opening lines. And then you have the body of the message, which is your offer. And then again, if you don't know what your offer is, check the link in the description, a whole video workshop on how to build a solution first agency. But then you get to the call to action. And there are 3 calls to action that you might put in an email. One is click to buy. And I don't really like the click to buy in this context because we're talking about relatively expensive things, kind of high ticket web design, probably 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, like these really big things. Nobody's going to click to buy. Now, don't trick yourself in thinking that you're not doing the click to buy by thinking you're doing like a click to schedule a call. There's a good way and a bad way to schedule a call. If you position the call as if, hey, if you're ready to get started, click here and we'll call and we'll set up a call, that's a click to buy, right? Because like the ready to get started part is the buying intent. So what we really want is the learning intent, not the buying intent. So the good way to have people click to schedule a call is not click to buy, but click to learn. So for example, you would say, hey, click here and schedule a quick call. And on this call, you will learn, X, Y, and Z, like, how to get leads for less without competing with national brands, or how to get more visibility on Google, or whatever it is that you plan on talking about on the call. Say you'll learn these things, even if you don't hire me to do anything. It's an educational thing rather than like an e-commerce or transactional thing. And then the other idea is forget about the click to schedule a call and just have it click to go to like a content upgrade. Like, click here and go to a landing page, and maybe there's a video or a webinar or some kind of more detailed description that goes beyond what's just in the email. And so the whole email will be designed to get people to click the link. So my 2 favorite ones are either click the link and go to something that gives you more detail, or click the link and let's do an educational or a learning call rather than a transactional or e-commerce one. And then you're like, well, how long should the email be? Well, don't do more than 5 sentences. Like, you can pack all of the stuff that we've talked about into 5 sentences or fewer. Because if you get this really long email, I know a lot of people are saying like, tell your story, like write this long email, get people like emotionally invested in the whole thing. Well, what we found is people don't have the time to read all of that. And when we write really, really long emails, people just don't ever read the whole thing and they just skip to the bottom and then they've missed the whole flow. So if you can keep the narrative to about 5 sentences or fewer, which is going to be like, a paragraph, two or three paragraphs, the little short ones, that's kind of the sweet spot. Maybe 4 or 5 sentences, something like that, but try not to get more than 5. Otherwise, it gets too overwhelming. And then when you have a subject like, hey, here's a quick idea for more leads, well, it's not that quick anymore. It's like this long thing. So that's about the length. And then when you get to the very bottom, end the email with a closing question. And I like to end the emails with a question that kind of elicits a no response rather than a yes response, because it's less committal. It's easier to say no than it is to say yes. And we found that by having I got this idea from Chris Voss in a book that I read that he put out on Never Split the Difference. So if you've never read that book, that's a great book to check out. But like, he kind of tipped me off to the idea of how no responses kind of boost the conversion rates a little bit as opposed to a yes response. So a good example question to put at the closing of the email would be something like, are you too busy for a quick call about getting more leads? And by having the are you too busy part in the front, then it's like, no, I'm not too busy. It's easier to say that, right? So like, that's kind of how I like to close the email, with kind of like a no-based answer. And if you do those 5 things with a good subject, a good introduction, the call to action, the length is not more than 5 sentences, and then you have that closing question, I guarantee you'll get more leads like that. So if you want to figure out how to get more leads for free, check out this next video on here's a whole list of different ways to get free leads. So if you don't want to do cold emails, you want some other lead generation ideas, check this video out, or check the link in the description for that video workshop on how to figure out what your solution is so that you know what to actually put in your emails. All right, either way, I'll see you in just a minute.